In the bustling streets of Boston, during the harsh winter of 1922, among the grand Victorian mansions and horse-drawn carriages that still competed with the occasional automobile, lived a homeless man named Thomas McCarthy. At 45 years of age, his weathered face and calloused hands told the story of a man who had seen better days. Once a promising carpenter before the economic downturn of 1920, Thomas now made his home in the shadowy alleyways of Beacon Hill, surviving on the occasional odd job and the kindness of local shopkeepers who would spare him their day-old bread. Despite his circumstances, Thomas maintained a dignity that set him apart from other vagrants. His clothes, though worn and patched, were kept as clean as possible, and he never begged, preferring instead to offer his services in exchange for food or a few coins. He had made the back alley behind Winston's Bakery his regular sleeping spot, where the warm air from the kitchen vents provided some comfort during the cold New England nights. On a particularly bitter December evening, as snowflakes began to dust the cobblestone streets, Thomas witnessed something that would alter the course of his life forever. An elderly woman, clearly from Boston's upper echelon of society, judging by her fine fur coat and elegant bearing, was making her way down the icy sidewalk. Her silver hair was arranged perfectly beneath a fashionable hat, but her steps were uncertain on the treacherous surface. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The woman's foot caught on an uneven patch of ice, and she began to fall. Thomas, who had been watching from his sheltered spot, moved with surprising agility for someone who had spent the night in freezing temperatures. He managed to catch the woman before she hit the ground, steadying her with gentle but firm hands. The woman was Mrs. Eleanor Vandermeer, widow of the late shipping magnate Harold Vandermeer, and one of Boston's most respected socialites. Though initially startled by her rescuer's appearance, she recognized in his eyes a kindness that transcended his ragged exterior. Thomas not only prevented her fall, but also insisted on escorting her the remaining 3 blocks to her destination, despite her initial hesitation. During their slow walk through the snowy evening, Mrs. Vandermeer learned that Thomas had once been a skilled craftsman, and that he had lost everything in the economic downturn that had swept through the nation. She was struck by his articulate speech and the quiet dignity with which he carried himself, despite his obvious hardship. What impressed her most was that he asked for nothing in return for his assistance, simply wishing her a good evening once they reached her destination. The following day, Mrs. Vandermeer found herself thinking about the homeless man who had shown such gentlemanly behavior. She was particularly moved by the fact that despite his own desperate circumstances, his first instinct had been to help others. That evening, during her weekly telephone call with her son William in Washington, D.C., she recounted the incident in detail. William Vandermeer was not just any wealthy businessman. He served as a special advisor to President Warren G. Harding on matters of commerce and industry. At 48 years old, he had built upon his father's shipping empire to create a vast network of businesses that spanned the entire eastern seaboard. However, it was his mother's words about the homeless man's kindness that captured his attention more than any business deal had in recent memory. Moved by his mother's story and concerned for her safety in Boston's harsh winter weather, William decided to take action. He dispatched his most trusted private investigator, James Morton, to Boston, with the mission of locating the homeless man who had helped his mother. Morton spent 2 weeks canvassing the Beacon Hill area, speaking with shopkeepers and other homeless individuals. The search led Morton to Winston's Bakery, where the owner immediately recognized the description of Thomas. The investigator found him one morning, huddled in his usual spot behind the bakery, trying to stay warm in the freezing dawn air. When Morton approached him with an invitation to meet William Vandermeer, Thomas initially thought it was some sort of joke, or, worse, trouble with the authorities. However, the legitimacy of the offer became clear when Morton produced a letter written by Mrs. Vandermeer herself, thanking Thomas for his assistance that snowy evening. Within hours, Thomas found himself on a train to Washington, D.C., wearing a new suit provided by Morton, still somewhat in disbelief about the turn of events. The meeting between William Vandermeer and Thomas McCarthy took place in Vandermeer's elegant Georgetown office. William was immediately struck by the same qualities his mother had described: Thomas's dignified bearing and intelligent manner of speaking. During their conversation, William learned more about Thomas's background in carpentry and his experience managing various construction projects before his downfall. What started as a meeting of gratitude evolved into something more significant. William had been searching for someone to oversee the renovation of several historic properties his company had acquired in Boston. He saw in Thomas not just a skilled craftsman, but someone with integrity and natural leadership abilities. The offer he made was both generous and practical: a position as renovation project manager with a substantial salary and, more importantly, a chance to rebuild his life. Thomas's transformation over the next few months was remarkable. With proper resources at his disposal, he threw himself into the work with dedication and skill. His understanding of both construction techniques and the needs of workers made him an exceptional manager. The first renovation project under his supervision was completed ahead of schedule and under budget, earning him the respect of both the workers and the Vandermeer Company executives. By the summer of 1923, Thomas had moved into a comfortable apartment in Boston's South End. His success with the initial renovation led to more projects, and his reputation in the construction industry grew steadily. He made it a point to hire skilled workers who had fallen on hard times, understanding better than most the difference a single opportunity could make in someone's life. Mrs. Vandermeer took great pleasure in following Thomas's progress, often inviting him to tea in her Beacon Hill home. She found in him an excellent conversationalist and enjoyed hearing about the various restoration projects he was overseeing. Their unlikely friendship became a topic of positive gossip in Boston's high society circles, with many praising the Vandermeers' ability to recognize true worth beyond social status. By 1925, Thomas had established himself as one of the most respected renovation experts in New England. He had saved enough money to purchase his own home, a modest but elegant brownstone not far from where he had once slept in alleyways. The local newspapers ran a feature story about his remarkable journey from homelessness to success, highlighting how a single act of kindness had led to such an extraordinary transformation. Thomas never forgot his experiences on the streets. He established a foundation that provided vocational training and job opportunities for homeless individuals, particularly in the construction trades. The foundation, which he named the Eleanor Vandermeer Second Chance Foundation, helped hundreds of people rebuild their lives through meaningful work and support. William Vandermeer's decision to trust his mother's judgment about Thomas's character proved to be one of his wisest business decisions. The renovation division of Vandermeer Industries, under Thomas's leadership, became known for excellence in historical preservation and restoration, adding significant value to the company's real estate holdings. In the years that followed, Thomas's story became a symbol of hope and redemption in Boston society. It demonstrated that true character could be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the greatest acts of kindness came from those who had the least to give. His journey from the streets to success became a testimony to the power of human dignity and the transformative nature of opportunity when given to those who truly deserved it. The fateful encounter on that snowy evening in 1922 had not only changed Thomas's life, but had created ripples that continued to impact countless others through his foundation's work. Mrs. Vandermeer would often remark that Thomas's success was not just about the material transformation of his circumstances, but about the preservation of human dignity and the recognition of inherent worth in every individual, regardless of their current situation. As Thomas stood at the podium during the 10th anniversary celebration of his foundation in 1935, he reflected on how a simple act of helping an elderly woman had led to such profound changes in his life. His story had become a beacon of hope for others, struggling through difficult times, proving that compassion and dignity could survive even the harshest circumstances, and that sometimes the greatest rewards come from helping others without expectation of return.